Today on Project 1114, we address the brakes, taking care of the pads, rotors, and fluid, and we're going to pull the ECU out, which is something that needs to be done on every Mitsubishi Galant VR-4. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for another installment of Project 1114. Super happy to go back to my familiar stomping grounds. Love this early 90s Japanese stuff, especially this platform. Today on the agenda, we're going to take care of those brakes. We're going to do pads, rotors, and fluid, give them a new lease on life. And then I'm going to pull the ECU out, which is something I recommend if you guys are following along. If you pick up a Mitsubishi Galant VR-4 or you've had one for a while and you don't know if this has been done, I'm going to show you where the ECU is, how to take it out of the car, open it up and examine. It does have a known issue with the capacitors leaking. So that can be bad news. That can be completely detrimental to your ECU. The circuit board can get eaten up by those capacitors melting down. So we're going to go ahead and send that to a professional to get new caps. And we refer to them as caps. We'll get those replaced and some new ones put in place to guarantee the longevity of this ECU and the car. All that and more on today's episode of 1114. Let's get in that garage and get some work done. Here's some bonus content for you guys. You can see all this dirt falling out behind the wheel well liner here. Yeah, that's a known issue. With the design of these Galants, look at that, you can pry in there and get all kinds of stuff out. Good thing to do if you live in a climate with a lot of moisture, that could definitely lead to rust. So clean these things out periodically. I'd say with a frequency greater than every 30 years or so should be fine. Alright, a little bonus content there. Yeah, there was even more dirt than expected. Look at that mountain. That's insane. All that dirt was up under here. Look at that. Yeah, brilliant design. There's like a little gap right here where dirt gets slung off the tires and goes down and stays in that spot. So good idea to clear that out. So while doing the brakes on the passenger side of the vehicle, I noticed a lot of grease right at the end of the axle, if you can see in there. So yeah, I've cleaned up a lot of the grease already, but as you can see, that inner boot on our axle has certainly perished. Yeah, I can replace the whole axle, but it is a Mitsubishi unit, and the aftermarket ones tend not to be as good. So it seems to be functioning just fine, so I'm just going to replace the boots. I'll do the inner and outers just to be super safe, even though the outside one is not ripped or anything. But to get this off, we have quite a little job ahead of us. We'll have to pull off the nut here holding the whole assembly together. The suspension has a couple bolts, and then popping off the tie rod here, drop that whole unit down, pull the axle out, replace the boots, put some new grease in there. So that's what we're gonna do. First things first, we gotta take this cotter pin out. Nice and easy. These rust-free cars are amazing, right? Start PV blasting everything that's coming out, because you never know when I'm gonna get some difficulty here. Do that for the suspension bolts too that we have to pull. And then of course, the castle nut right here on the outer tie rod. For this job, you have to have a 32mm socket, which is a little bit of an oddity. I have one laying around because I used to use it for Saab oil filters. So yeah, always been a weird car guy, I guess. Heck of an electric impact here, so let's see if that gets the job done. Well, that was not easy. It took the big massive impact wrench, some heat from a really strong heat gun, and some strong coercion to get that axle nut off. Holy crap. That thing was basically welded on there. That was incredible. All right, it took a little coercion to get that tie rod out, but we got it to drop down. Your good friend on that operation is gonna be a pickle fork, something you can wedge in between and kind of drive it through with a hammer and cause that separation. Looks like there's a little rust and corrosion down in here, so we'll wire brush that so the next one won't seize in there as well. Undo this little connection with the, I think it's the ABS sensor. Oh, I'm missing the control arm bolt there. That was pretty smart. Oh, I feel like an idiot. So we've got the axle out of the Galant VR-4. As you can see, the axle itself is in fantastic shape. Definitely needs a cleanup. That boot is still holding well, even though we are going to replace it. This one, not so much. The boot has failed. I need to really inspect it. When I pull it off, I'll take a look. But it is nearly empty of grease, and all the grease was slung up under the front of the car, so yep. Let's go ahead and clean this axle up, put some new boots on it, and reinstall. Okay, next we're going to take the rotor off of here. Should be pretty straightforward. It feels kind of loose, so it should come off. Sometimes they can be stuck on there really bad, depending how much moisture got in between. This setup does have the screws where you can put some little pilot screws in there and separate the rotor from the hub, but I don't think we're going to need it on this application. That's always nice. There we go, rotor's off. Now these don't look horrible. There's not a super crazy lip or anything like that. But they are definitely old, so why not? If you're gonna go in, you might as well do it. Never a bad idea to get some brake cleaner and kind of clean up the hub and surrounding area too. Just get some of that old brake dust and all that nasty stuff out of there. Looks good. Same with the caliper. Clean that up a little bit. Alright guys, you know the drill. We got to bleed that old fluid out. So we've got our trusty power bleeder hooked up to the brake fluid reservoir. So we're going to pressurize it. I like to be around 12 to 15 psi. It makes the job a lot quicker. Then we're going to walk around the car, open each bleeder valve on each caliper, and get that nasty old fluid out. Let's pump it up. Excellent. Time to crack some calipers open. Again, just a reminder, start with the brake caliper furthest back from the booster reservoir area. So you're going to start on that passenger rear and work your way forward. So passenger rear, passenger, driver. And the last caliper we need to bleed is the driver front. So you're going to remove this little rubber cap here covering the bleeder valve. put your wrench on first. Top tip there. 10 millimeter is what you need for the Galant VR-4 to bleed the brakes. And then we're gonna put our bleeder line over the valve here. Make sure it's on there nice and secure. We're then gonna crack the line and get that old fluid out. There we go, nice and cloudy and nasty coming out of there. Let that run for a little bit. The rest of the fluid I pulled out of this vehicle was pretty dirty, so looks like it's been quite a while since the system's been bled. So I'm gonna go ahead and bleed this for quite a while. Make sure your pressure's still good. On the power bleeder unit, go ahead and pump it back up to 15. You'll lose a little bit as you go, just how it goes, but keep it topped off at 15. Run it, till you see nice clear liquid coming out here. All right, after bleeding it for a little bit, let's go ahead and close her back up. Obviously you wanna tighten the bleeder down. Nice and hard, but don't Incredible Hulk it. Pull that, and you're good. Don't forget your little rubber boot to prevent that from rusting up and getting corroded. Boop. And our brakes are fully bled on the Galant VR-4. The ECU in the Mitsubishi Galant VR-4 lives inside the passenger footwell area. So go ahead and crawl in here. Get a light because it's usually pretty dark, and you'll see a kick panel here on the bottom. This kick panel right here. You're gonna need to pull this down. The ECU is up in this area here. So we're gonna go ahead, pull that entire kick panel off, get access to the ECU where it is bolted to the chassis of the car, and we'll go ahead and remove that to get access to it. And we'll go ahead and remove the unit for inspection. So this is actually pretty tricky to show, but we'll take you back. Here's the kick panel removed. This is what it looked like. You can see the yellow connectors up in here. Those are all the connectors going into the ECU, so that gives you an idea of how the ECU is tucked up in here. So there's at least 2 bolts you should be able to see that you can undo. And I don't remember if there's one on top. I'll update the video, obviously, if I do find one. But you should be able to undo those clips, pull the wiring harnesses out of the way, do those 2 bolts, and drop the ECU. So let's do that next. With the 1 nut and the 1 bolt, both of which are 12 millimeter, undone, you can pull the ECU out, and here you have it. Here's what your ECU should look like in a Mitsubishi Galant VR-4. With the protective case removed, you can inspect your ECU at this time. What you're looking for is any kind of corrosion, any of those capacitors leaking onto the circuit board. This one actually looks pretty good. I'm still gonna send it away just to make sure everything's okay and to ensure the car is good to go. I'm a big fan of using ECM tuning. These guys are fantastic, and I've worked with them many times in the past on multiple Galant VR-4 projects.